Wansbeck Riverside Country Park came about in 1973 when the project was started to create the barrage behind us so it would entrap an amenity lake to encourage water sports in the town. There was a great expanse of mud which a lot of people didn't really like. It's quite often smelly during the summer. The whole estuary itself, from the railway bridge all the way down to the sea, is also classified as an SNCI. That's a site of nature conservation interest. The amenity lake itself has been fantastic for the area, bringing in a lot of people from all over the country to compete in water sports actually on the river. Camas Rowing Club and the Wansbeck Paddle Sports Club are two of the most successful in the country, and they're both based on the river here now.
However, over the last 45 years, what this has meant, having this barrage here, is that the water quality has deteriorated. There's not enough mixing of the saline and fresh water, and that has had an impact on the marine ecology, and it's also meant we've had a build-up of sediment and silt in that time.
The Wansbeck estuary currently is only functioning naturally in a very small section. It's slowing the flow and preventing natural scouring from happening, and as a result is silting up behind the barrage. This has had consequences to the users of the amenity lake and restricting their access throughout the full width. Secondly, it's also having consequences to the water quality behind the barrage, and it's causing water to become stagnated. And this is because the water is not allowed to mix naturally, and there's not regular flushing behind the barrage. And as a result, this has caused areas of anoxic and hypoxia, which are not good for the ecology and for the wildlife behind the barrage. And thirdly, the presence of the barrage is again preventing that natural tidal regime from resuming, and as a result is restricting the presence of the estuary edge habitats along its length. The natural intertidal habitats that you would usually expect in an estuary are restricted, and this has consequences for the overall ecology and function of the amenity lake itself. So through the project we hope that increasing the tidal regime will allow some more natural estuary edge habitats like salt marsh to be established.
In the past there was jet ski and water skiing club just behind me, but unfortunately the water's so shallow now that neither of those sports can take place.
My name is Alan Fairholm. I'm the captain at Camas Rowing Club. It's a club we've been running since 1911, based on the River Wansbeck. We've got around about 60 members at the moment. It's the best river in the northeast to row on. It's fantastic. And since we moved to the current site in the 70s, due to the silting up, there's a large part of the river we no longer are able to use, which obviously affects training. It affects the ability to hold events.
The sluice gate was one of the mechanisms that was put in to help drain the amenity lake if it was required. To my knowledge, I don't think it was ever used, and the mechanism, because it wasn't used, fell into great disrepair and unfortunately became really too expensive to repair.
So the Environment Agency is working with partners to try and find a solution to this problem. In an ideal world, the Environment Agency would like to remove the barrage in full. However, we recognise the importance and wide use of the amenity lake itself by the user groups.
At the moment we're carrying out a 3-month trial, and this is to open the lock gates and allow flushing of the sediment through over a 3-month period. Part of the work that we're doing here on the barrage is to try and see if there are ways to improve the mechanism of the lock gates and the sluice gate. That way, if we've got more efficient mechanisms, then the lock gates could be opened more rapidly and we could have more effective flushing if we get advance warning of flood conditions. We know that flood conditions are the best time to allow for this flushing activity. But at the moment the gates are 45 years old, the bearings are worn, the gates don't open properly, the sluice gate doesn't work at all. We're here today to have a chat with some engineers to review some options to see if we can't come up with a technique of replacing these.
So with the boats and keeping rites of passage, we've got a couple of options. The first option is to do the selector gates again, but the problem we'll have with the selector gates is you'll have the same maintenance issues you previously had. We can change the gate so it opens upwards and slams back down, taking all the mechanical workings out from the water, reducing maintenance and increasing the access. The other option is we put 2 high operation penstocks in, which will lift right up and give you the same through, but there will be a slightly higher operation time for them to lift fully out the water. But either way, it will allow you the flushing through high tides to scour the works behind us.
We're Grammar Car working to assess the feasibility of replacing these lock gates. I've put together a package which will allow us to bid for funding for this major infrastructure work.
It's something that we all feel very strongly that we need to address, and we're hoping that with the support of the council and with Groundworks, that's something we can do, and long term we can get the river back to how it should be, which is frankly a usable facility for the whole community.
To come up here 2 or 3 times a week and walk the estuary, it was beautiful. It was full of fish, full of sandworms, full of life, mussels and everything. And unfortunately the barrage has just silted it all up, and there's absolutely nothing at all in the river now. You get the odd fish, but it used to be pristine sand, you know, for a couple of miles up the river, and it was a pleasure to come down here and just watch the wildlife. And I hope it can be restored to what it used to be. It was a great spot.
It's going to be a long-term project, but hopefully, you know, with the help of promoting the possibilities and the environmental benefits, the recreational benefits that it will bring, then we can persuade and win grants that will help replace the infrastructure and allow for a better, more effective working barrage.